United, weren't the team to do it today, but I think with Nico O'Reilly at left back, who thinks a big talent, Kusanov at right centre, at right back, there's just something not quite as dominant as you watch City for years. I've sat up here and been bored watching them. They were that good because they were just absolutely sublime in every area of the pitch. They wouldn't let you attack, not just because they had the ball most of the game, 70%, 65%, but as soon as they give it away, they'd all be all over you and win it back straight away. That's not this Manchester City team. When they give it away, or when they're pressing from the front, they're not as dominant in that area of their game as they were a few years ago, and that'll mean that they will concede shots on the goal, but they've now got a shot stopper. Pep's gone and acted. He's then brought a shot stopper, and we saw the stats before the game of Donnarumma versus Ederson. I like Ederson as a goalkeeper as well. He's a brilliant goalkeeper. But I think what City have now is a brilliant goalkeeper who can maybe stop a lot of those shots that they're letting in on the goal, which will make them more competitive, obviously. But I think it's... Haaland was amazing today. He's a brilliant centre forward.
Yeah, and you've covered Donnarumma there, whose save from Mbeumo, by the way, was beautiful, and we had a great view of it. The other one we were picking out in the game was obviously Phil Foden. And listen, any great player over the course of a long career is going to have dips and rises. But are you seduced into believing that he's showing us now he's ready to come again?
Well, I like Phil Foden for a start. I think he's a brilliant football player, and there are question marks over him. There are doubts. I do think that if you're a great player and a prolific title winner and you're someone who's going to play at the very top level for 15 years, you have dips. That's a guarantee. You look back through every player's in history that have been basically at one club, and they've had that moment where they thought, is it right? Should I leave? Have I lost my form? Have I lost my spark? All those things, injuries, obviously. But the important thing for Phil Foden today, for me, the most difficult part of any football match usually for a team that's going to go on and win is the first 30 minutes where there's real competitiveness, particularly in a derby. I thought he was brilliant in that part of the match. I mean, he was good all the way through the game, but in the most important part of the game where City were establishing their authority and control and obviously needed to get that first goal, I thought he was really good. So this wasn't a Phil Foden that starts the game today, that's been not in the England squad, that's coming in and you're thinking to yourself, he looks a bit jittery. He's played his way into the game and he's got better as it's gone on. He started the game really, really well. Thought his touch in the early parts, his positions in the sort of areas where Bruno Fernandes and Agati were trying to pick him and Reinders up were really clever. I thought some of his link play was fantastic, and I thought every bit of his game was good in that first half an hour. So I always think sometimes you can play yourself out of bad form or a difficult moment by getting sort of a win, and then later on in the game, when the game opens up, it's easy for everybody to look comfortable. But no, I thought he was really good in the early parts of this match when actually it was most difficult for City to establish themselves. So it was a good day for Phil Foden. That he's always brilliant in derbies, but what he needs now is consistency and to stay fit and perform at that level. I saw Pep Guardiola at the end of the game. I don't know if you saw her on the walk around when they were obviously doing the lap of honour. Pep Guardiola had his arm round him, and even questions have been asked about that, haven't they, about whether Pep Guardiola and Phil Foden sort of not get on with each other, but whether he's having him or not. So that was, I think, a good moment as well for City fans to see at the end of the game.
Into the last 5 minutes of the game, I asked you the sort of burning question that you probably dread around Manchester United and what they take out of it. And I was asking you to give, and you did give a constructive answer, or tried to. Yeah. So let me ask you it again now you've had 10 minutes to think about it.
Look, I think if I start with the football side of things, I think United had moments in the games today, particularly in the first 20 minutes, where I thought they counter-attacked 3 or 4 times and they should have done better with it. And at the start of the second half, for the first few minutes, when Haaland was heading those corners out and those sort of deliveries into the box out, they looked promising, but they just weren't enough. And I said it was a bit of a nothing. There are certain things that I look at and I think the system is the system, and United fans will like it or they won't like it, but Amorim's not going to change. He's going to die in his own ditch if he's going to die in terms of losing his job. But it does mean there are challenges at times whereby to try and make, when you are chasing a game, he still plays that. So even at Grimsby away, you had Mason Mount at left wing back. Well, that's just not right. Today, I think he's always changing his back three. Always, it seems, in every single match. Euro comes off or someone else comes off, and then it doesn't seem to get any better. Changing the back three, I always think you need stability in your back line. And I say back three, he changes the back five regularly as well. So the 2 wing backs and the back three. The goalkeeper is the goalkeeper. I don't think he did anything particularly wrong today, but I don't think he will be strong enough to be able to be a Manchester United goalkeeper, so that will come back and bite at some point. The midfield is a massive problem, and we've known that. United fans know that. Agati and Fernandes today, I think you mentioned it earlier, about an hour before the game, that Agati and Fernandes played in this fixture last year from start to finish, and United won the game. But Agati's not good enough. And Bruno's not a player who plays in a deep line midfield in a 2. Particularly, he can do, I think, if United are at home and they're playing against a team where they're dominating possession, you can maybe bring him a bit deeper and get away with it. But against any team that have got good possession, good players, and that's most teams in the Premier League, Bruno is always going to probably struggle in a midfield 2. And what happens is, it's a bit of a pattern that exists. You can cuddle Bruno with Ahmad and then Burmo and Sesko, and they sit in front of him and provide a shield. But what happens is, when the game opens up a little bit, or the game players get a little bit more fatigued, or United go 1-0 down, they end up then sort of chasing it a little bit. The front 3 stay a little bit higher, and then those spaces start to appear in midfield, and then Bruno starts to get pulled around a little bit. And Bruno's United's best player by a mile. But this system either has to have him as a 1 of a 2 in midfield, or 1 of a front 3,
reaction.
of which he's neither of
Phil Foden. We had extra motivation coming into the game. It was for Ricky Hatton, his family, and the people suffering right now. It wasn't a pretty match, but the way we ran, it was all for him, and we're delighted with the result. On his performance, there's been a lot of talk, all of it quite negative, but that's the world we live in. When you've been player of the season, I understand that expectations are higher. It's about reading the comments, trying to react as best I can, and getting back to my level. On Haaland's display, yeah, it was a complete performance. He did everything, holding the ball up, defending, attacking, running in behind, doing the dirty work, and pressing for the team. Erling Haaland. We needed this. You always want to win the derby, but you could feel a little extra motivation today. I'm so relieved, I'm so happy that we could do this together. We have to keep going, and we have to keep this guy going, taps Foden. Because we need him so much. We'll help him as much as we can to make him as good as he was the season before last. Haaland receives his Player of the Match trophy. It could have gone to Donnarumma. He was unbelievable. Full-time, Manchester City 3-0. An excellent day for Manchester City, who will hope that this ultimately emphatic victory kickstarts their season. Phil Foden scored the first and showed flickers of his best form, but the day was all about Erling Haaland. He was immense in every facet of the game, including as a leader, and scored twice in the second half. Man United weren't awful and would have been back in the game had Gianluigi Donnarumma not made a remarkable save from Brian Wembu at 2-0. But they looked what they are right now, a lower middle table team with the weight of the world on their shoulders.